he's my personal hero. So I would like to introduce you to Curtis Bennett.
How's everybody doing?
Good.
Listen, you guys, I'm a very unlikely person to be here because imagine this, even the first time I heard about this, I just kind of laughed it off and I thought, what a bunch of nonsense. A bunch of people complaining about things, they have no right to complain about it. It wasn't until I was watching the news and I was actually watching parents complain about Wi-Fi in schools. And I was watching the schools, boards, and the technical people not providing those parents with the answers that they needed. Now, what I want to share with you guys with this is, my job is, listen, we're professional troubleshooters. There's nobody in the world that does what we do. And I'm the mouthpiece for this organization that does this most amazing work in the world. When they talk about using a dummy and a meat probe on to see if these frequencies are hurting people, imagine this. What we've done is, over 32 years, is we evolved temperature out of a calculator. We're professional troubleshooters. We don't sell things. We work for police, we work for military, we work for fire departments, we work for lumber, oil, gas, insurers, medicine, all the above. We help these guys locate problems so they can catch them ahead of time. And I'm just going to show you guys a little bit of information on what we do, and the important part for all of you guys here to understand this, I'm not here selling anything to you guys. I'm here because I'm an electrical professional. We design frequencies for a living. And the fact that when I watch the government dig into this issue and not answer questions to me as a credentialed electrical professional, with credentials recognized by the provincial government, by the federal government. So I just want to show you guys a little bit about what we do, but I don't want to make this about what we do. This is just very important issues that you're going to hear about here. So this is where this is where I work. Imagine this. And getting to see temperature beyond our visible spectrum. I can't tell you what a humbling job that has been for me. Here I am I'm a journeyman electrician. I've got a building engineering background in building engineering technology, so designing energy systems. But here again, you'll see this. Just the next slide for me, please. Here's a temperature image right here. Here's a building. Here's the inside of the house right here. You can see the walls on the inside. See this cool space in here? Now you can see this. Brighter and hotter temperatures are lighter in color. Colder is darker. You see this right here? This is missing insulation in one stud space. So what we'll do is, for municipalities, when they get a building, we want the building to be uniformly insulated. So we go in there after the fact just to make sure the building is functioning. Catch this ahead of time so people can fix it, so that you get a good product. Otherwise, it's burning more fossil fuels over and above. Next slide. Here, imagine this. That was a residential building that you saw before. This is a commercial building. Now, for some of you guys that are tradesmen here, or understand this part of it, imagine this. Here's a building in Kelowna. You see this dark part right here? This is a big commercial tilt-up building. They only insulated this part of the building where their showroom is, but the heaters are on the roof. So here's this heat loss. Here's this building that's just dysfunctional. If you owned it and paid for it, listen, it would fail. So we just want to point this out, catch this ahead of time so we get a good job at the end of the day. Next image, please. And imagine this with our building inspection guys. They're blind to these temperatures. They go in there and sign buildings off and say, is everybody compliant? Imagine for lumber mills. Here's what we'll do is, here's a fuse disconnect right here. So we'll go in and troubleshoot their electrical systems while they're under load, before they blow up, before they cause problems, fires, lost production, all the above. So here's what it looks like with the naked eye, but here you can see one fuse here is going to cause problems. So literally our work is so technical that we work for the mill and the insurance company at the same time, and say to the mill, you're insured for lost production. Your insurance company says fix this. So to work for both of them at the same time to get the job done. Next slide, please. How many people remember those beautiful forest fires? Well, you imagine this. Here I am working in Kelowna in 2003. All of a sudden the media comes up and they say, hey, we had a lightning strike in Peachland. We can't see this fire. So I contacted the media and I said, hey, we're here working on global warming. We trained our first fire department 20 years ago. Can we show you that fire? And they said, oh, you're the guy that can see the fire through the smoke. And me smoking something. So instead, imagine this. What we did is this. We tried to contact forestry, the premier's office, all the above, and they said, you're the guy that can see through the smoke. I said, it's a very simple application. So we got ignored through that whole process until finally this thing interfaced with Kelowna. August 21st. They've told us to stand down. They're having jurisdictional problems. The fire's coming along Lakeshore. Here's what we could see with the naked eye. These are the buildings. This is all smoked in. Here's that fire coming at 300 feet a minute, 100 meters a minute. This actually caused me to flag down an RCMP officer and I said, hey, you got to evacuate people. It's here now. This initiated the evacuation of 15,000 people. Next slide, please. For medicine, try to imagine this. Doctors are blind to temperature. So here's what rheumatoid arthritis looks like. See these bright areas here? So when they can see arthritis, the whole deal is they can see what's effective. They can see it pinpointed, where otherwise they're blind to it. Next. Here is an infection. Somebody was bit by a poisonous spider here. Here's the progression, an infection in one day. So for medicine to be able to see this so they can deal with it more effectively, we've developed an imaging application to see cancer early so that they can do this. But again, the point is we're very technical. We don't sell services. Next. How many people remember SARS, the flu, and H1N1? Imagine this for my industry. The people that sell me equipment imaged hundreds of millions of people at ports of entry and couldn't produce one image of a flu because the application exceeded their expertise. So we had to actually meet with Health Canada because these guys, imagine this, they imaged hundreds of millions of people, couldn't produce an image of a flu. So we had to meet with Health Canada and do a presentation for them, and they were just angry because this woman has a flu. Can you see it? Can you see symptoms? Next slide, please. Here's that inflamed sinus on that side. So the idea that it can be seen. So that's why they failed with this. Next slide. Now we talk about frequencies. Now how many people understand what a smart meter is? Well, you guys imagine this. How many people have heard, even when we were younger guys, we'd talk on a walkie-talkie. We'd see somebody in a mobile radio. Well, imagine this. These guys want to take these meters and plug them into your building so that they can talk to them remotely without the meter readers coming around. They want to put an electrical meter on there so that they can read your power consumption from afar. They want to, and after that, they want to put in more meters, gas, water. What they're not considering with this is, guess what? We're not electrically compatible with the frequencies. There are reasons we wire things. So imagine this. When they talk about a frequency, they're talking, you've heard frequencies talked about as a wavelength. So imagine this. Here's what it looks like. Here's a wavelength for AC electricity. All frequencies are different, but frequencies are very specific electrical information. And the reason I want to get into this with you guys is imagine this when I was watching that television, that CBC News, and I didn't hear the language I wanted to hear. I contacted Health Canada and I said, what did you guys do with the frequency conflict between people and these frequencies? And they said, they're not electric. Now something really important for you to understand with me too is, I've had, even my own group has said to me, listen, you're not the sharpest tool in the shed. How come you picked this up? And I said, guess what I did? I did my education. Here I am with that electrical background, the engineering background. And as soon as there was a rollover into lecturing medicine, that's when doctors said to me, they said, Curtis, did you know that cells have frequencies and voltages and capacitance? And I said, get the heck out of here. And they said, what does that mean to you? And I said, it means that their cells are trying to maintain an intricate electrical system. They said, didn't you know that? And I said, no, we're not allowed to use people for conductors in electrical systems. So we just don't get into it. We don't get into it in our school that, hey, how much load can this person take? So imagine this. So when I got this rollover into this, all of a sudden I saw these frequency conflicts. Now how many people know that their power in their house is 60 hertz? Have you ever seen that on the back of something? You'll see 60 Hz. So imagine this. You've got 60 hertz coming into your house, so this 60 hertz can talk to a 60 hertz hairdryer. Not what I'm using. The 60 hertz curling iron. If you look at your appliances, they're 60 hertz, but you see the frequency compatibility? And that's the important part electrically. Now imagine with meters. Do you know what? Now this is 60 hertz, which means 60 cycles per second. That's what that does, 60 of these per second. Do you know what the frequency of smart meters are? 900 million cycles per second. 1.8 billion cycles per second. Do you know what your brain is? 7 hertz, half a hertz. We are not electrically compatible. Now, next slide, please. Now, here's what I want to show you. You guys hear this too? Listen, there's all kinds of radiation around us all the time. Well, that's true, but we still can't take our buddies and tie them out on the lawn on a hot sunny day and watch them scream for a while, because what will UV do? Burn them. Now here's just an example of something I did. Here's a frequency. Everybody's heard of UV? Here's this very fast moving frequency. Here's how it impacted somebody's skin in 8 minutes in February. That's how fast and aggressive these frequencies are. Except imagine with UV. UV, you can't suntan your basement, can you? But the frequencies are coming through your walls. These other frequencies are coming through your walls. Okay, next slide, please. Cell phone radiation. This was something for me too, and I never picked up on this. People would always say to me, I started presenting this in 2002. Here's a young man before he talked on a cell phone. Here he is after he's talked on a cell phone for an hour. Do you see that on his neck? All the way down here. All the way up here. And I always had people say to me, Curtis, is the phone's safe. Can we get a blocker? And I said, why aren't you guys talking about the cell phone tower whamming that person in the top of the head? And that's what they left out of the equation. These guys are talking about the phone talking. They're talking about a tower talking to Barb's phone. Barb is an inconvenience in that equation. They just want the phone and the cell phone tower to communicate, not her. So imagine stuff like this. Now you guys, can you see differences in the size of his head? See the differences in the size of his neck? How many guys carry their cell phones in their pockets? I can see some girls smiling back there. Your husband do that? Imagine this. Well, listen, I poke fun at myself first because people say to me, hey, you think you're a smart guy? I wore a headset because I thought, hey, I'm smart. I'll wear a headset. And I would drive my car. Guess where I tuck the phone? Between my legs. So again, imagine this now when people say to me, oh yeah, you hypocrite, do you use a cell phone? I said, no, I do not use a cell phone. I've got a cell phone with me right now because if I need to call 911, those are the guys I want to talk to. We're not supposed to hold radiating devices next to our head. Next slide, please. When you talked about Barb here, when I heard what was happening to her and doing those things, listen, we're not nice professionals. When Barb came to see me, they said, are you going to just listen to her for a while? And I said, I'm going to listen to her. They said, do you believe her? And I said, of course I don't. I need you to tell me a story because imagine this for me, even in clinical environments, doctors will say, this person's got a brain injury. Can you see it? So right while I'm talking to the person, we're already set up and I can already see their brain injury. And I say, tell me a story. Because we want to coincide this for all the right reasons in the world. But imagine this with Barb. They said, Barb, you're not being hurt. Now imagine this with these cell phones. Do you know what they're theoretically doing with this? No, here's what they're really doing. Imagine this, and we're going to get into this. That code that she talked about, safety code 6, this is based on human exposure to this. So imagine this with this code. Because they gave people no electrical properties whatsoever, they actually say this in their code. We know that they're heating up. And we know that 63% of the heating is happening in the first 6 minutes. And then they kind of level out. But you know what that heat is coming from? A power density, which means they're shooting this little electromagnetic force field that is enveloping me, all of it. But I'm not insulated from that kind of stuff. So we're going to see some more with this. But you can imagine with Barb. This is what I was looking at. Here's what Barb was looking at when she was telling me her story. And I'm telling Barb, tell me a story. Tell me which hand you held it in. Where was your finger? Where was this? Where was this? Where was this? I can't show the other images, but even on the side of Barb's head, on the other side here, here's just graphic heat and some type of inflammation that just doesn't belong there. Next slide, please. So you can see this, where you're expecting relative symmetry between hands. Here's Barb's cell phone hand. And you can imagine this is a cell phone person. She sat there for 30 minutes at a time with this thing on there, hooking up people's cell phone packages. She was a top producer selling cell phones. Imagine this up here. And imagine holding this radiating device next to your head while that tower is throwing off that information through the building, here in the head from this side here, no matter where she's turning or what she's doing. Next slide, please. This is the code they're talking about here. Because you guys can imagine this. It's not illegal to hurt people. You can't hurt people and make money at it. So here's this code. limits of human exposure to radio frequency electromagnetics. That just means EMFs within that field. Now this has to be, you guys have heard of the BC Building Code?
Yep.
Canadian Electrical Code? Well, imagine this. This is the only code in the world where when Barb says that I dug into this code, I just couldn't figure out, when I talked to them, I said, what did you guys do with this? You missed this information. And I wasn't getting the answers that I needed. And then I went in here and looked at this, and this code says this. The predominant health effect to be avoided is the unintentional stimulation of tissue, which means we don't want to cause any excitation of anything, because that code says this. It'll cause nerve and muscle stimulation in you. Now you guys imagine this. Nerves run every function in your body, from your toes to your testicles to the top of your head, all the above. And your nerves run that. So the code also says this. We're supposed to avoid a heat effect. And now imagine this. Then it gets into this thing where it says this. We don't know the mechanism linking the frequencies to adverse health effects, so we're just heating them up a little bit, and we're going to think that that's okay to do that. So imagine this. Here's a code that actually says, we don't know what's causing this, so we'll just cook them a little bit and do this. How horrific. So September 2010, I presented to Health Canada, and listen, I did this the same way I do this for industry and military. I contacted Health Canada and I said, you guys are missing the mechanism. Here's the mechanism, and your code also says this. You'll use the weight of evidence approach to investigate that information. So when I presented that as an electrical professional to these guys, they said, the science that you're missing is people are electrical, and you're electromagnetically inducing them with those frequencies. How many people, now to make this easier for people to understand this too, how many people have seen that little coaxial cable in the back of your television? You see that little cable TV in there, that little nonsense little thing with that little wire? Now you guys think about you with this, and that's why people say, hey, how come it's affecting me? How come not others? Well, you guys imagine this. You guys are a coaxial cable without the coating. Those coatings are on there to avoid electromagnetic interference, electromagnetic interruption. And guess what these frequencies are doing? They're causing electromagnetic interference, electromagnetic interruption. So imagine this, when I report this to Health Canada, I'm reporting to them to duck. And you know why? If you hurt some people, you don't want to be liable for that, because Canadian taxpayers are going to be liable for that. Everybody's going to be liable for that. September 24th, end of September, I sent this in. Mid-October, I get a document back that says, there's no peer-reviewed science stating that these frequencies cause harm. Well, that just means that Health Canada negated to recognize electricity as peer-reviewed science. So imagine this, they answered me politically. End of October, Canadian Parliament contacts me. These guys did whatever they did, but Canadian Parliament, Standing Committee on Health, contacts me and says, here's an email to you. We're requesting that you testify for this committee. And I read their document and I said, hey, you guys said that you can make me testify for this committee. And they said, we can make you testify. But we didn't have to do that. And for that committee, I represented the same information. You guys, you missed the fact that they're electrical, and you can't do that. And guess what they did? The report of the committee came out. Health Canada ignored it. Health Canada ignored their recommendations to thoroughly investigate as per code. Now, where this is important to you guys is you imagine this. The U.S. court system came to us and called me and said, you testified for Canadian Parliament or for a committee, and I said, not a committee, the committee, the Canadian government. So here, imagine this. Here we are, expert witnesses now in the U.S. court system on these frequencies being in schools. And here's what his questions were to me last week. You reported this to Health Canada. It's got nothing to do with you. You're an electrical professional. I said, yes. They said, the science is electricity. It's not rocket science. He said, Health Canada did not pass this on to the provinces. And I said, no. He said, they did not pass it on to the World Health Organization. I said, no. They did not pass it on to the U.S. courts. No. They did not pass it on. It got political. So imagine this. When we ramped this up in this provinces, we contacted the Premier. We contacted the Energy Minister. We contacted BC Hydro, the BC Utilities Commission. And here's why I'm here with you guys today, is because guess what these guys did? I'm an energy professional with a license and a number specifically for this provincial government and another one for the federal government. Well, the energy minister dismissed me. And imagine this, dismissed me even though their document says this. BC Hydro says this. Here's what was so important to me when I presented this to Ottawa. I said, you have a code that was missing the mechanism, and now the mechanism has been reported, so the frequencies are illegal. Today, you're causing the stimulation of tissue. You're hurting people. You're doing this. Health Canada does not pass that on to the provinces, does not pass it on to schools, does not pass it on to the municipalities. So imagine this, even your own municipalities are trying to administer these problems. They're being told by a political party that guess what, that the frequencies are safe, and they're not. But BC Hydro says this, we have to comply with Safety Code 6, even though I said the frequencies are illegal. I want this code enforced. BC Utilities Commission, you have to comply with Safety Code 6. Energy Minister says you have to comply with Safety Code 6. The province has said, so what? We're going to put this in and hurt you regardless. Now you guys imagine this. When I presented cameras, as electricians, we do not blast frequencies around to anybody. You just don't do that because you're going to cause problems. So here I am in Kamloops talking there. Right after the meeting, here's a retired welder that comes up to me and he says, what's this going to do to my pacemaker? And I said, what are your instructions saying the pacemaker? And he says, stay out of electromagnetic fields. And I said, so they're going to bring the electromagnetic field to your home. So then imagine this. After that, I get called by an extended care facility in Kamloops. And they said to me, what will this do to health monitoring equipment inside this facility with our disabled people? And I said, oh my God. So I contact even medical education. I said, with health monitoring, I said, what do those things do? And they said, they monitor your dosages, you know, how often you're getting them, what you're getting. So imagine interfering with that equipment. Now here's where this is a panic for me now, because imagine this on top of this. These guys are told to stay out of these. Imagine the hypocrisy of this. Interior Health pays for that pacemaker. Interior Health pays for the pacemaker. You pay for the pacemaker. You're paying for BC Hydro and the Energy Minister to take them out. So here we are paying on both ends. Here's BC Hydro. We're going to take out these guys with the pacemakers. We're going to affect our senior citizens. We're going to affect people with this. And we're paying for all of it. And the worst part is, these guys are just not listening and following the law related to that as it relates to you. Now you imagine this. And you guys think about this from the legality standpoint of this. That taxpayers, who do you think is going to be responsible for this stuff at the end of the day? Taxpayers. Do you know what, you remember the guy with the hood on, putting on the meters? This is out of Maine. And do you know what these guys have actually, you heard Brian refer to it. Do you know what they've actually got reporting in Maine right now? Smart meters are interfering with devices inside the buildings. They're interfering with electrical devices inside the buildings. They've actually set up a special team and they're settling claims and paying off people's devices because it's interfering with their electrical devices. What they haven't considered is, you guys are electrical devices. Your babies are electrical devices. Do you guys know that, how many guys probably don't know this, but how many people know what SIDS is? SIDS, Sudden Infant Death Syndrome. Did you guys know that BC SIDS rates are up 30% over last year? Did you know that right after that I got a hold of medical education and I said, tell me that a vulnerable baby wouldn't be affected by those frequencies, and they said, nerves run the lungs. Nerves are the switches for the lungs. Those frequencies could affect that baby. So here we are now in dialogue with the BC Coroner's Office, who's investigating this and watching this. And imagine this. This is why this irritates me, is because this is what Brian's talking about. I would have never thought a conspiracy theory where this is going to cost us money would come forward at issues like this. Now if you want to turn I think the last slide is there. Now if you guys can see that, that's my website there. Now if you even go to the left-hand side and look at EMF Education, here's a real good one for everybody, including skeptics, to look at. At the bottom of the fifth page are the filings in the U.S. court system. Now imagine this. Here they are. Here's what these guys are looking for with the injunctions, with everything they're looking for with these frequencies. Here are the declarations of the professionals and the expert witnesses under threat of perjury. And so that means when I gave my declaration to the U.S. courts, if I lie, I go to jail. Now, when you go to jail in the U.S., it's not like in Canada. You know, they're not going to send you to Vernon to a couple of golf courses and, you know, whatever the heck it is you're going to do. I don't want to go to jail in the U.S. But what I want you guys to take a look at this is, I'm in there specifically as an electrical professional dealing with the frequency aspect of this. It's Health Canada's code that says it causes problems. But what people should pay attention to is, there's a gentleman in there named Barry Trower. And Barry Trower's declaration as a biological and physics professional is this. He developed frequency weapons for the UK military. He actually talks in his declaration how these frequencies were used by the Russians against the US Embassy to make the people sick. Do you know what Barry Trower says these frequencies are going to do to women and children? And when I read this, I called the lawyer and I said, tell me you're kidding me. And he said, no. Barry Trower says this, and the reason he came out of retirement, one of the things he refers to is genetic mutation of girls' ovaries. Imagine language like that. And here I am in medicine. Here we are in medicine in clinical environments where doctors are saying, hey, these guys have got these problems. We can't see them. Can you show us some more information? Can you do this? Well, when doctors are saying, hey, we've got reproductive problems as a species, you know what, from an engineering perspective, what happens when species can't reproduce anymore? And what these guys want to do is, these guys want to use these technologies to blanket areas, blanket communities, because for ease of communication, there's only one problem. There's these pesky things called humans and pollinators that get in the way of that. I'm getting this done. But you guys imagine this. My last medical program was this. Imagine this. They had a European university doing tests on Wi-Fi affecting trees. Wi-Fi affecting trees. And guess what? They don't run. Plants don't run at those frequencies. We don't run at those frequencies, so it's killing the trees. So imagine this in medicine to say to them, what happens when a species can't reproduce anymore? You know, and here's the reality of that. And here, imagine this. Here's Health Canada. Today I'm writing to Health Canada today saying, you guys are having a big meeting going on, a big accord going on, because they want to talk to the provinces about health costs. So here they are talking to the province about health costs, but here they are putting in these frequencies that are affecting health costs. And all the above. You listen how, like I said, it's just horrific to see what's going on. So for you guys to be aware of this issue, that again, the problem for me, we're not getting our questions answered as per code, as per law, and as per professionals, only in the best interest of the protection of the public. So you guys be very informed. Now here's something interesting too. Whether people want to go this route, you guys think about this. The BC Energy Minister said to me, the Clean Energy Act allows us an exemption to come onto your property to put in these meters. And I said, it does not. It tells you that you cannot go onto meter. You can't go onto properties to install illegal gear when that gear is violating Health Canada's Safety Code 6. We want Health Canada to enforce that code. So these guys don't have a reason to be on your property. But you guys, you better pay attention to this, because guess what? This is taking out your kids. What a horrible thing to have to even say to you guys that these guys, the first time I went, I didn't even know what Wi-Fi was. I went to a Wi-Fi installation, and that's when I said to these guys, I said, you're putting Wi-Fi in this school to radiate the entire area so we don't have to pull wires to computers. The answer is yes, to avoid construction costs, to avoid real economy. So you guys, again, you guys are wonderful for being here for those things, but truly pay attention to this issue, because your elected officials haven't been told the frequencies are illegal. They've been told by Health Canada. They're safe. There's no peer-reviewed science, even though, guess what, the peer-reviewed science is called electricity. Health Canada is supposed to follow the weight of evidence approach as per code. Listen, some of these guys are going to go to jail for criminal negligence. You know, I'd have them walk the plank or do whatever they do nowadays, but we'll have to see where that goes. But what these guys are doing is illegal. But in the meantime, for me, how many seniors? Look at it. I live in Kelowna. How many senior citizens? Well, I've said this. What the heck is the acceptable death rate in vulnerable babies or seniors or people that have worked their lives all life long? Imagine these people about these disabled facilities to say, oh yes, this is going to interfere with the monitoring equipment, plus Health Canada says it's going to affect their neurological processes. So you guys just pay attention and sharing this wonderful information, because I never thought in a million years we'd be effectively under attack by our own political process, but you know, that's what's going on with the way they're handling this. And as much as that's illegal, these guys are blasting this stuff through very fast and affecting so many people. And imagine this for me. You know, my mom's in her late 70s. For me to be dealing with seniors that are saying, I can feel my skin crawling. I can feel these things crawling inside me. And to work with doctors that say, your nerves run this part of your body, your nerves run this, and here's what they're feeling, and it's disgusting. So you guys, looking forward to answering questions. Thanks for being here on this very important issue.
Thank you, Curtis Bennett. That was fantastic.